Have you ever found yourself in the middle of an English conversation and right before you speak, your brain completely freezes? Inside your head, it feels like a chaotic construction site. You are frantically searching for the right tense. Is it present perfect or past simple? Should I use has been or was? You are translating from your native language, arranging the verbs, checking the prepositions, and by the time you've finally constructed the perfect sentence in your head, the conversation has already moved on. You stand there nodding silently, feeling frustrated, defeated, and honestly, a little bit foolish. But here's the truth that nobody else will tell you. Your problem isn't a lack of vocabulary, and your problem is definitely not that you don't know enough grammar. In fact, the exact reason you can't speak English fluently right now is because you are thinking about grammar too much. Think about it. When you speak your native language, do you think about subject-verb agreement? Do you pause to remember if a noun is masculine or feminine? Or what formula to use for a conditional sentence? No, it just flows out of you automatically. You think of an idea and your mouth expresses it instantly. In this video, I am going to show you exactly how to replicate that exact same automatic flow in English. We are going to look at why the traditional way of learning English has actually broken your speaking confidence, and I will share a real-life story of someone who was completely trapped in this grammar prison and how she finally broke free. By the end of this video, I am going to give you a complete, step-by-step psychological strategy and a daily routine that will train your brain to bypass the grammar rules entirely so you can finally speak English smoothly, confidently, and completely automatically without ever freezing again. If you are tired of feeling smart in your head but sounding broken, when you open your mouth, take a deep breath. You are in the right place. Let's get started. To understand how to fix this, I want to tell you a story about a student named Sarah. Sarah was incredibly smart. She was a senior project manager at a global tech firm. In her native language, she was sharp, witty, and powerful. She could negotiate million-dollar contracts without a single drop of sweat. But when the company transitioned to global operations and all meetings switched to English, Sarah's world collapsed. For 2 years, Sarah did what everyone tells you to do. She bought thick grammar textbooks. She memorized the 12 English tenses. She did thousands of fill-in-the-blank exercises online. If you gave Sarah a written test on advanced English grammar, she would score a perfect 98%. She knew the rules better than most native speakers. But the moment the Zoom camera turned on and a colleague from London asked, "Sarah, what's the status on the Q3 launch?" Sarah froze. Her heart would race. Her palms would sweat. In her mind, a frantic internal dialogue would start. Okay, the launch started in the past and is continuing now, so I must use the present perfect continuous. We have been working on... Wait, is it working on or working at? While her brain was fighting with the textbook rules, 5 seconds of dead silence would pass. To her colleagues, it looked like she didn't know the answer. To Sarah, it felt like public humiliation. She would end up giving short, robotic, one-word answers just to make the nightmare stop. She began avoiding meetings. She even turned down a major promotion because it required leading international presentations. Grammar hadn't made her fluent. It had paralyzed her. One rainy Tuesday evening, after a particularly brutal presentation where she stumbled over her words and forgot a basic phrase, Sarah sat at her desk, put her head in her hands, and decided she was going to quit her job. She felt she simply wasn't built for languages. But before sending her resignation letter, she decided to have coffee with a senior consultant at her firm named Marcus. Marcus was originally from Brazil, but his English was legendary. He didn't sound like a textbook. He sounded natural, effortless, and alive. He cracked jokes in English, navigated tense arguments smoothly, and spoke with absolute freedom. Sarah confessed everything to him. She said, "Marcus, I don't get it. I study grammar 3 hours a day. I know all the rules. Why can't I just speak like you?" Marcus laughed, but it was a warm, understanding laugh. He looked at her and said something that changed her life forever. He said, "Sarah, you are trying to drive a car by reading the manual while you're behind the wheel. If you are looking at the instruction book to see where the clutch is while moving at 60 miles an hour, you are going to crash. You have to stop analyzing the car and just start driving." Marcus explained that when he first arrived in the U.S. years ago, he did the exact same thing. He tried to build sentences like puzzle pieces. It failed. So Marcus made a radical deal with Sarah. He told her, "For the next 30 days, I want you to make a promise to me. You are going to throw your grammar textbooks in the trash. Literally, if you worry about a mistake, you lose the deal. We are going to change how your brain processes English." Sarah was terrified, but she trusted Marcus. She agreed. Instead of studying rules, Marcus had her do 3 simple, unconventional habits every day. Habits we are going to break down in detail in just a few minutes. She stopped analyzing. She stopped translating. She stopped trying to be perfect. At first, it felt incredibly uncomfortable. Her brain kept screaming, "Wait! What tense is that?" But she forced herself to ignore the voice. She focused entirely on the rhythm and the chunking of the language rather than the mechanics. 3 weeks into the experiment, Sarah was in a high-pressure meeting. Suddenly, a director asked her an unexpected question about a budget delay. Usually, this would trigger Sarah's internal grammar panic. But this time, because she had been practicing Marcus's method, she didn't have time to think. She opened her mouth and instead of a calculated sentence, a perfectly natural phrase just flew out. "To be honest, we ran into a bit of a roadblock with the vendor, but we've already turned things around and should be back on track by Friday." The room nodded. The meeting moved on smoothly. Sarah sat back in her chair, her heart pounding, not from fear but from absolute shock. She hadn't translated. She hadn't thought about the past simple or the present perfect. She hadn't previewed the sentence in her mind. The words had just come out automatically. That was the day Sarah realized she wasn't bad at English. She had just been using the wrong operating system. Today, Sarah leads global teams, speaks at international conferences, and hasn't opened a grammar book in years. She speaks English completely by feel. So, how did Sarah go from complete paralysis to total automation in just a matter of weeks? To understand this, we have to look at the neuroscience of how your brain handles language. There are 2 completely different types of memory in your brain: declarative memory and procedural memory. Declarative memory is where you store facts, data, and information. It's where your brain keeps the rule that says after he, she, or it, you must add an S to the verb in the present tense. This memory is slow. It requires conscious effort to search, retrieve, and analyze. Procedural memory, on the other hand, is muscle memory. It's the part of your brain you use to ride a bicycle, tie your shoes, or play the piano. You don't consciously think about which muscle to contract when you're balancing on a bike. Your brain just executes the action automatically based on deep, subconscious patterns. When you study English the traditional way, through grammar books, conjugation tables, and school translation exercises, you are storing English entirely in your declarative memory. So when you try to speak, your brain treats English like a math equation. It tries to calculate the sentence. But real-world speech happens at an incredible speed. Human conversation moves at an average of 130 to 150 words per minute. Your slow, conscious declarative memory simply cannot process rules that fast. That is exactly why you freeze. The grammar filter in your head acts like a massive bottleneck, slowing down your words and creating intense performance anxiety. Native English speakers do not know most of the rules you are studying. If you ask an average native speaker to explain the difference between the future continuous and the future perfect, they will look at you blankly, yet they use them perfectly every single day. Why? Because they learned through procedural memory. They learned by absorbing patterns, not formulas. To speak English automatically, you have to bypass the grammar filter entirely. You need to shift English from your declarative memory into your procedural, automatic memory. How do we do that? We do it by changing the input you give your brain. There are 3 core pillars to speaking English without thinking about grammar. Let's break them down right now. Pillar 1. Shift from words to lexical chunks. Stop memorizing isolated vocabulary words and verbs. When you learn single words, you force your brain to use grammar like glue to stick them together. Instead, you must learn in lexical chunks. Chunks are natural groups of words that always go together. For example, don't just learn the word mind. Learn the chunk. I change my mind. Don't just learn the word wonder. Learn the chunk. I was wondering if, when you store language in pre-assembled chunks, your brain doesn't have to calculate the grammar. The grammar is already built in. You just grab the entire block and throw it into the conversation. It takes 0 mental effort. Pillar 2. The high input echo chamber. You cannot speak fluent English automatically if you spend 80% of your time studying and only 20% listening. It has to be the opposite. You need a massive amount of what linguist Stephen Krashen calls comprehensible input. This means listening to English that you understand easily, where you don't have to pause to look up words every 10 seconds. When you listen to natural English consistently, your brain's pattern recognition software automatically figures out the grammar behind the scenes without you ever noticing. You start to develop a feel for what sounds right and what sounds wrong. Pillar 3. Lowering the affective filter. The affective filter is a psychological wall that goes up when you experience fear, anxiety, or self-consciousness. When this wall is high, your brain literally blocks your ability to access the language you know. To speak automatically, you have to completely redefine what a mistake means. A mistake is not a crime. It is proof that you are trying. If you say, "He go to work yesterday," instead of "He went to work yesterday," guess what? The other person still understands you perfectly. Communication was successful. Prioritize communication over perfection. The moment you give yourself permission to speak with imperfect grammar, your anxiety drops, the affective filter lowers, and your natural fluency unlocks. The 30-day strategy and action plan. Now, let's turn this philosophy into a practical daily blueprint. If you want to see massive changes in how fast you speak within the next 30 days, I want you to commit to this exact 3-step daily routine. It takes less than 30 minutes a day, and you can do it completely on your own. The 10-minute active immersion. Daily prerequisite. Find a native podcast, a YouTube video, or a TV show that you genuinely enjoy. Listen closely for 10 minutes. Do not focus on the individual words. Instead, listen for the rhythm, the pauses, and the common phrases the speaker uses repeatedly. Identify just 2 or 3 conversational chunks, like, "as far as I know," or "I'm about to," and write them down in a dedicated notebook. The 5-minute muscle memory activation. Take 1 minute of the audio you just listened to and practice shadowing. This means repeating the words out loud immediately after the speaker says them, mimicking their exact intonation, speed, and emotion. Try to match their voice like an echo. This physically trains your mouth muscles and vocal cords to produce English sound patterns effortlessly, converting speech into physical muscle memory. The 10-minute bypassing the grammar filter. Set a timer on your phone for exactly 10 minutes. Pick a completely random topic, like what you did today, your future goals, or your thoughts on a movie. Now speak out loud to yourself continuously until the timer goes off. Here is the golden rule. You are not allowed to stop speaking, and you are completely banned from correcting your grammar. If you make a mistake, keep going. If you can't find a word, explain it using other simple words or skip it entirely. Keep the speech flowing no matter what. The 30-day golden rule. If you catch your brain trying to analyze a rule during the thought dumping exercise, consciously tell yourself, drop the rule, keep the flow. This simple phrase forces your mind back into natural expression mode. If you commit to this routine every single day for the next month, something incredible is going to happen. Your brain will slowly stop viewing English as a textbook subject to be studied and start viewing it as a tool to be used. You will find yourself in a conversation, someone will ask you a question, and just like Sarah, the words will come out before your grammar filter even has a chance to turn on. You will finally experience the incredible freedom of speaking English completely automatically. Stop being a student of grammar rules and start being a communicator of ideas. You are already smart enough. You already have the vocabulary you need to start. Now, it's just time to trust your brain. Drop the textbooks and start speaking. I want to hear from you down in the comments. What is the number 1 grammar rule that always trips you up and makes you freeze when you try to speak? Let's talk about it down below. If you found value in this masterclass, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with someone who is currently trapped in their own grammar prison. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Keep practicing, keep flowing, and I will see you in the very next video.